Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Lock Shop. It is Dusty on location in Beaumont at Boston Pizza. If you're down in the area, I'm going to be here until noon, and then obviously Tommy Gazzola rolls in, and we'll have Oil Stream rolling from the Beaumont BPs until 1 o'clock today. So make plans to join us for lunch today. A little bit of a wild ride here over the last 20 minutes or so. I get set up. I get everything down here. I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't bring a USB-C cable to plug the board into my computer. So then I'm texting Pat. I'm like, hey, can you hop on with us? And I'm going to run and try to find this cable. And sure enough, like right next door to this Boston Pizza, there's a Shoppers Drug Mart. And I was like, is Shoppers Drug Mart going to have a USB-C cable? Sure enough, went over there. They had one, came back connected. Pat's already here. It's like, well, you might as well stick around. They're going to connect Huss here. We'll throw Huss in as soon as he's ready to go. I know Zach's working on that. So, P. Greggy, you might as well stick around. We got lots to talk about from the weekend.
There's no shortage of banter to talk about. A little bit disappointed waking up this morning, logging on to Coolbet, hitting that NHL tab, and only seeing 2 games.
I know.
This is malpractice from Gary Bettman. If you want to grow the game south of the border, there should be like day games. There should be late afternoon games. People have the itch. The madness just ended. Yeah. This is when we should be getting games. A loaded NHL slate. On the other side, speaking of poor marketing, MLB, how have you not figured out a way to parlay this? This today, March 25th, should be opening day. We have a full slate of baseball.
Monday after the madness. I like that.
Like, would that not be perfect? It's the perfect come down from the madness. I think it's a no-brainer. But, hey, we still have 2 games. Still got a lot of talk about March Madness. Houston Opens odds for outrights dropped in the early hours this morning. So we won't have, a shortage to talk about sports here when Huss comes on as well.
Yeah, there he is. Huss, what's going on, buddy? Look at us how well their Coolbet looks today. This is really nice.
No doubt. I'll tell you what. I am just happy that Pat's here, so we can maybe avoid talking about our godforsaken hockey teams that happen to be playing tomorrow night.
Oh, what a game!
Here, like, I don't know how your show was today, but
how do you think it was, Huss?
Well, put it this way: I'll be putting a hazmat suit on before we start up Winnipeg Sports Talk today at 1 o'clock. And it certainly sets up an interesting matchup tomorrow night here in Winnipeg between these 2 teams. And that will be, I'm sure, the focus of what we discuss tomorrow on the program. Dueling WST and EST parlays, I would imagine, for sure. But the rubber match between these 2 teams that desperately need a win. I would argue the Jets more so than the Oilers, but you may, and the listeners of EST might feel differently considering how that weekend went for you guys. But my God, that was, to go from that game on Tuesday, which many people thought might have been their best of the year, and throw back-to-back, stink bombs is being charitable. And then yesterday, listen, they were better, but they still lost, which didn't induce any confidence into people around here. So, yes, we're getting the fire hoses out. We've got some therapists and counselors on standby, and I'm quite happy to recap March Madness and the golf on the weekend. Rachel Holman coming through, saving my weekend from a betting perspective. God bless you, Rachel.
The Holman Empire.
Lots to get
God
to.
Bless you, Rachel Holman. What that's just you only hear that, I think, on the Lock Shop. She was phenomenal. She was absolutely outstanding. Yeah, crazy weekend. We might as well just stick with the National Hockey League thing for now, because I know how that Edmonton-Toronto game went over here in Edmonton, because I was on the post game with Tommy that night, and people were absolutely livid. What about on the other side of it, Patty, in Toronto? What was the vibe like after that win?
Oh, it was great through the first 40. I think some b-holes were puckered up a little bit in the third when the Oilers made the push there. But I think one thing that the Toronto Maple Leaf faithful were really pleased with was the depth scoring continues to come up in a lot of these big games, and B, there was a lot of fight, not just literal fight, but this was a Leafs team that played a lot more physical, continuing to play physical.
They were all over McDavid and Draisaitl. That was one of the talking points today. Like, I didn't think we'd be coming out of that game, Pat, even being like, man, Joel Edmonton sure gave those guys a hard time, but he kind of did, and there was not much pushback from the Oilers side of things.
Yeah, and Toronto over the last few years have been the team that has been the ones getting pushed around. It's Matthews and Marner who are getting pushed around and bumped and banged every time, the whistle sounds. And you guys know, like, in playoffs, you need to play that style of hockey. Is that going to continue in the postseason for the Leafs? Who knows? But it felt like it was a big time playoff atmosphere. Definitely, you could sense that frustrations were boiling over on the other side, and things were just going really well for Toronto. I think there was a bit of scare with Samsonov going out, but I think Joe Wall is the guy. I think he's the guy of the future. It was a tough loss last night against Carolina, it being a Sunday game off a back-to-back. That was a little bit of a damper off of a really nice win for Toronto. But again, it is back-to-back. Carolina's a good team. And, I don't think the sky is falling, all things considered, when you look west in the country and you got your two teams that you guys are talking about, even though 2-3 weeks ago, everything was looking pretty peachy for you guys, and not so much to say now.
Well, Huss, you said it about the hazmat suit on for Winnipeg Sports Talk today. But in your opinion, I mean, I know fans might have a little bit of a different take, but what happened to the Jets over the weekend?
Oh, I mean, where do we start? Like, the problem was that this wasn't just the weekend, because this is a 5-game road trip. They started off by smashing Columbus.
Yep.
And then the narrative was, well, listen, they haven't played very well against playoff teams for the last month and a half. So you go into MSG on paper, the toughest game of the entire trip, and beat the Rangers in an incredible hockey game that was back and forth. I mean, I was comparing it to the previous Saturday's Oilers-Colorado game for the pace that was going back and forth. Scheifele stepped up with a hat trick. Hellebuck was brilliant. And then they take that into New Jersey. And the New Jersey game, I mean, the first period was 5-6 shots. It was close. It was low event. They didn't do much. And then it was almost like New Jersey turned into the Avalanche and the Jets turned into the Sharks. I mean, it was 23-9 in the second. At one point, it was 10-2 in the third. Just an absolutely dreadful performance. And, Brendan Dillon afterwards, it was unacceptable. They left their goaltenders out to dry. And then they went in and did the exact same thing for the first two periods against the Islanders. Now, the third period was lipstick on a pig. I mean, it made the score look a little bit better. But anyone that was paying attention that had seen, like, I'm pretty sure that that 4-period stretch from the start of the second in New Jersey to the end of the second against the Islanders, at least by shot metrics, was the worst 4 periods consecutively in the 2.0 era. I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about since the Jets came back from Atlanta.
Wow.
So there were expectations against the Capitals that they would step up and be much better. And to their credit, they were. They were playing more their system. They really did a good job. I mean, the Caps only had 3 shots in the second period, but they didn't score. And then when Washington got a power play early in the third period and scored with 4 seconds left, it just sort of felt like, okay, they were back at it. They were chasing the game again. They were working hard to do it. And then Ovi got a couple. And I mean, the game yesterday is not in the same class as the previous 2. But when you put that after those 2 games, and I mean, let's face it, this team was right there for first place in their division, President's Trophy going into last week. And now you have people saying they're for sure getting caught by Nashville and then they're going to be the wild card.
I love it.
So it's, I mean, listen, they're starting this 5-game homestand tomorrow against a very, very good opponent in the Edmonton Oilers, even though they didn't look very good over the course of the weekend. But I would say there's some angst because the one kind of elephant in the room is that the Jets in previous years have had great starts, good first halves, and then really sort of at some point hit the wall, sputtered out. They bucked that trend this year. I mean, even though the metrics had been the same, they had that crazy run of 30 plus games or whatever, where they led 3 goals or less in. They've gotten away. They've just been way too inconsistent, sometimes playing to their system, sometimes looking like a disengaged group that when they don't play it can get waxed. And they did it to some teams that, frankly, when you based on what's happened so far through 70 games, had no business doing that. So important off day for the team today. And then I guess the Oilers are probably here right now tonight in Winnipeg. Tomorrow, as I say, on all of our shows, we'll have plenty to talk about. But it will be a fascinating matchup because, I mean, Rick Bowness famously said after the end of the Vegas series last year, there was no pushback from the Winnipeg Jets when they needed it. They didn't have enough of it this weekend, and they better get it tomorrow, or people around here are going to be very, very nervous with Vegas coming in and then the rest of this homestand. Albeit, like just completely forget about the 39 regulation wins they have this year, which is right there at the top of the league. But we live in what have you done for me lately society. And the bottom line is you want to be playing your best hockey at this point. You want to be seemingly ramping up to get ready for the playoffs. And if you've watched this team over the last 3 days, they've looked like they're doing the exact opposite.
It gives me a little bit of hope here as a Leaf fan that has been around just this absolute madness for my entire life, that this actually does happen elsewhere. Because when you're looking at the Jets, they've got 93 points. The Avs and the Stars are both sitting at the top with 97. They've actually got one less game played than Dallas. Like, why the panic button? I get it's more than meets the eyes. Like, it's the eye test. It's the way that they played, but they're still fine. They are still fine. They could still very much win the division. They can still very well win the President's Cup, President's Trophy, like you said. Yeah, sure. Is Nashville nipping at their heels? Of course, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit of an early panic button. I understand that just means you have a passionate fan base, but like, things are fine. I mean, I'm looking at the standing from a Toronto Maple Leafs standpoint. The Leafs are just too far out of it that there's no chance they can't catch the Panthers or the Bruins at this point. It's pretty much locked in that round 1, they're going to play whoever doesn't win the Atlantic. That's unless, they fall off a cliff here and end up in the wild card spot, which, depending on who you ask, that actually might be better facing a team like a New York or Carolina, just based off the scars that this group has, and maybe the way that they match up better against a Rangers or a Hurricanes rather than a Panthers or a Bruins. So your problems that you guys are having in Winnipeg and in Edmonton right now, those are problems that I think Leaf fans would much rather than what they have to deal with in the wagon that is the Atlantic division.
You know what, Dusty, ahead, I'll say this. I mean, it is funny. Pat makes this, point, and the Jets are 5 points out of first in the National Hockey League. Nashville, the fact that they haven't lost since January, I'm being somewhat facetious, but it's close.
It's not far
are
off.
Now as close to Winnipeg in the standings as Winnipeg is to the top of the Presidents. They're 5 back. I mean, it really is crazy. But the bottom line is, like, right now in the NHL, the Rangers and the Canucks have 98 points. The Stars, the Avalanche, the Hurricanes, the Bruins, the Panthers all have 97.
Yeah, 1 point.
There's 7 points with the 7 teams within 1 point of each other for the President's Trophy. Hell, Pat, that would be an interesting, just a prop to put out. President's Trophy right now from the rest of the games. I mean, you have so many teams that are in it. You'd probably have some interesting numbers on all of the teams. I mean, obviously they'd go into who the schedules are and whatnot, but
of course,
maybe something tomorrow if they want to throw that up after these games tonight for us to sort of get into, and people can get in a little bit of action before
for one day, for one morning,
tomorrow. But I guess the point is, and this is important for Leaf fans, Jets fans, Oiler fans, Predator fans, it is as wide open as I can ever remember.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about the cap and whatnot. I mean, there truly is some parity right now in the National Hockey League where just about any team can win on any given night. Like I tell you right now, the Colorado Avalanche seem to look like the best team in the league, and they're playing that way. And I mean, I would bet that if they put those odds out tomorrow morning, I would bet that the Avalanche would be a slight favorite, although I haven't looked at their schedule. Maybe they've got a tougher one than some other teams. But it's all about 2 or 3 weeks from now. People live in the present, but if your team looks like it's getting off of it right now, it is concerning because here's the thing. Some great teams playing well are going to lose in the first round of the playoffs this year. So if you don't have your A game, forget about it. And that's, I think, what people around our markets are looking for right now. But I guarantee you, one of our fan bases is going to be looking back at this angst at the end of March, laughing about how ridiculous it was because of how they played at the end and what they do in the first round. Although, you know, if it continues to look back, this is where it started, and they never really got it back in. And if you're playing the way the Jets or Oilers did this weekend, it's going to be a very brief visit to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I guess that's the bottom line.
The one thing I'll go back on that as well is, well, there's a couple of things, but it's kind of a twofold here. It's like, one, have you not watched the NHL playoffs over the last how many years? Like it truly, and I get it. Yes, you want to play your best hockey right now. There's still a few more weeks to figure it out. And if you can catch fire and can roll into the postseason, that's great. Look at the Florida Panthers last year. They basically were playing playoff hockey for a month leading into the postseason. You look at a lot of these like crazy runs, it's usually those wild card teams, or it's the teams that have been battling and have been fighting. And not to say that the Jets aren't battling or fighting right now, because they are fighting for a division. The other thing is, since when does anyone give a crap about the President's Trophy? As far as I'm concerned, that thing's cursed. How many times has a President's Trophy winner actually won the Stanley Cup? I'd be quite fine. Yes, winning your division, you want as much, home ice as possible. I am absolutely a superstitious person. I don't want the President's Trophy. I want the Stanley Cup.
Well, I was looking, as you guys are talking about like this race for the President's Trophy right now, I was looking at the NHL futures, and it's interesting. Like Stanley Cup winner, there's kind of like all the way down to the Leafs at 17-1, and then there's a significant drop off after that. But right now, Florida and Edmonton plus 650, Hurricanes plus 750. If you believe in the Avalanche being the wagon they look like they are right now, the Avs at 8-1 wouldn't be a bad play. Then you got the Rangers, who are great at 11-1. Bruins are 12-1. Dallas is 12-1. Vegas is 14-1. The Canucks, despite like not being tracked down in the Pacific all year, are still 16-1. Winnipeg's at 16-1. And then the Maple Leafs, kind of that one other team that are sort of hanging around there at 17-1. So it's an interesting time. Like, I don't know, like, would now be a good time to get on some of these numbers? Or do you kind of just want to stay away from it because it's so wide open? What do you think?
Well, if you want Colorado, I think it's a good time to get in.
Yeah, at 8-1.
Put it this way, I don't think that number is going down at all. Like that is the best number you're going to get at Colorado. That tells me. And you know what? I'll say the New York Rangers maybe too. I think there's a good chance the Rangers. And here's the thing: like in the West, it's not that big of a deal. You're going to be playing a very good wild card team one way or the other. And Nashville might be the most dangerous of all of them, and could be the second wild card based on where everything is at right now, but probably the first. If you win the East, you're getting a team that does not belong in the playoffs. Like if the Washington Capitals make the playoffs, they will be the worst team by every measure probably to ever make the Stanley Cup playoffs, at least since post-expansion where the league's been enough. I mean, they're in the bottom third of like every single metric. Even after their win yesterday, they are still minus 27 goals differential for the entire season. So it is.
But like we've seen this movie play before. There have been teams that have been just dog shit in the regular season. They catch fire at the right time. Goalie gets hot. I don't know. Like, of course, yes. Would I want to play the Washington Capitals in the first round of the playoffs? For
They
sure.
would be your first choice, yeah.
But yeah, like 100%. Schoolyard rules. We'll put all the lower seeds up against the wall. 100, 10 times out of 10, they're picking Washington.
Yeah.
But so many times we've seen it where we have these Cinderella stories, and if the goalie's catching fire and you're playing playing your best hockey at the right time, I would not be surprised if we see a crazy run with the Capitals here. At the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if we see them go bounce 4 straight. Now, I'm not saying run to the ticket window and put your Stanley Cup odds on the Caps to win the cup. No, but I've seen this before. We've seen this story. I will say though, I totally do agree, Huss. There is a massive, massive drop off for either Florida or the Rangers, or I guess you could say Boston or Carolina. Those are the 4 teams that are battling for the division in the East. You would much rather play Washington in the first round, despite what I said about them having all the makings
Tampa?
to possibly be like the drop, then going up against Tampa. Like
Tampa's the other team.
Yeah, it's insane. It is crazy the amount of drop off. And yes, Tampa are not the Tampa of old.
Yeah, but they're still Tampa.
But they
right?
still got it, man.
Yeah.
As long as that core is intact, Kucherov is still snapping around. Stamkos is sitting on the half wall for the power play. That D core is rolling out just big body after big body. And Vasilevsky, if he's healthy and ready to go, like, I'm sorry, man. I want nothing to do with that team.
You know what might
the first round?
You know what might be the best place? The most. I mean, if you win the East, you get Washington. I think we'll put that as the best case scenario. But a close second is going to be second place in the Met.
Yeah,
because you've got the Flyers, who again are only 2 points up on Washington right now, and they've played 2 more games. Like, Washington could actually finish third in their division.
Yeah,
I know.
Either Philly or Washington, if those 2 teams are the teams that get in, I mean, you're talking about like just complete difference in quality of team, top to bottom.
It's crazy
between those clubs. But I mean, bringing it back to the overall odds for the Cup winner, and if we're talking President's Trophy, I mean, it is. As I said, I can never remember like even if you look at the Cup winner right now, Panthers, Oilers, Canes, Avalanche, Hurricane or Rangers, Bruins, Dallas Stars, Golden Knights. I mean, those top 8 teams, I could make an argument why all of those teams could win the Stanley Cup. And then funny enough, Vancouver and Winnipeg, just right off of that, have been there all year long. I mean, I think Vancouver deserves to be in that mix. And frankly, as much as we're living in a really bad week for the Jets, they've got Connor Hellebuck. When they have been playing the way they can play, they've been the best defensive team in the league. I mean, there's 10 teams, some more than others, that you can make an argument for. So, and then we don't even get to the Leafs. And I think we all know the Leafs have high-end talent that if it ever really started clicking and producing in the playoffs, they're going to be a bitch to get out too. So I don't know. We haven't, and then Tampa and then Nashville. I mean, we are set up for, I think, the most interesting Stanley Cup playoff tournament from start to finish that we've seen in, well, who knows how long, but it's going to be a long time, and it'll give us plenty of options. But now's not a bad. If you have a feeling on a team that you think is going to be able to make a run, the odds are as wide open as we've seen ever at this point of the season. So maybe a good time to jump on it.
You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999. We're about 5 minutes away from giving you the keyword here for the trip to Vegas. We got those 2 NHL games tonight. We'll probably just stick with that, then get into some of the March Madness stuff. Ohtani is going to speak today as well, so we'll probably dabble in that a little bit here. 2 games tonight in the National Hockey League. Some of the comments in the chat right now. I like Wrench Dozer, who was in earlier. Wrench Dozer says, I PVR'd the entire weekend. No spoilers, please. And then he doesn't know much about betting, but he's here for the entertainment. So I like that as well. Big Ukes over there and says the Vegas St. Louis game tonight is huge. Push it to a 6-point lead for Vegas, or just 2 points back for St. Louis. And that's the thing, boys. Like, with just these 2 games on tap tonight, but they're both pretty big games. I mean, Vegas and St. Louis is a monster game, and the Kings and Canucks is a real nice game. I mean, the Kings obviously, trying to still track down possibly the Edmonton Oilers for second spot in the division, and more importantly, stay ahead of that Golden Knights team. But we might as well dive into these two games. Light slate, Huss, but like I said, man, big time games tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing both of these.
Hey, Vegas St. Louis is a monster matchup. I mean, what are the Blues are 6-4 in their last 10. But they're coming off a couple.
Yeah, they've won 5 of 6 or 6 of 7 or something like that.
I was just about to say they've won actually 6 of their last 7.
Only lost
their
Colorado.
Their only loss in that was that 4-3 loss to the Avalanche, in which they played really well. And look at the teams that they've beat through this. They've beaten the Bruins 5-1, the Kings, the Wild, the Ducks, the Sens, and the Wild. I mean, 4 quality teams in that mix. I mean, even though the Wild are outside of the playoff, they're not an easy team to beat. The Vegas Golden Knights, for their part, have been just sort of waiting, and everyone's waiting for them to be the team that we all expect them to be. Now, take it for what it's worth. They've won 3 of their last 4 against the Devils, the Kraken, and Blue Jackets, mixed in with a home loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They just finished up their homestand. Now they're going out on the road. This is an opportunity for Vegas, I think, to announce themselves, okay, here we go, 12 games left in the regular season. We are the Stanley Cup champs, remember us. But, man, they're going on the road to a team that has been playing playoff hockey for the better part of the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think I'm going to take St. Louis in this game, plus 140. I think the line is way too much in favor of Vegas. Like, I don't know about you guys. I think that this line should be more like minus 120, even money sort of thing. Like, I think the Blues are way undervalued. So I will be taking them from a value point. I mean, at plus 141, I think that that's a great number to get on St. Louis at home, playing the way they are right now. And listen, we still haven't seen this Vegas Stanley Cup champion team that we expect to be showing up every night that just kind of hasn't done it so far. So I'm going to ride with the Blues. And this other game, Kings Vancouver, is interesting. If anything, I think I like Vancouver in this game. They had a nice win against Calgary, and they haven't done what the Jets just did this week. I mean, we've been waiting for it all season long. And credit to Rick Tocchet. He has that team buying into their structure. Hey, if your goals might not be coming the way they have earlier on in the season at some point, but they're pretty damn consistent. That's something I cannot say for the LA Kings, even though they've been actually pretty good over the last 2 weeks or so. But certainly when looking at the odds, my favorite play by the numbers is the Blues at plus 141. And even if they lose to this game, I'll still feel good that I made this bet because they should be a much shorter underdog, if at all. You could make the argument that it should be a pick'em, to be honest with you, in my mind. So give me St. Louis tonight, and I think I'm going to probably roll with both of the home teams, St. Louis and Van.
Patty, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't quite have as strong as an opinion with the Blues, but just based off the number, that one there is something that kind of jumped out to me. So
I thought this number was plus 128 this morning. So it's moved quite a bit since this morning, because I made it the Coolbet hotline of the day on the Nielson show today, as we try to make it 7 in a row, and it was perfect last week. So we're trying to stay hot, and it was plus 128 this morning. So the fact that it's moved this much, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was 128 this morning. I'm almost certain, or I know it wasn't plus 141. I know that for sure. It's too good a value.
Yeah, usually when you're putting out your play of the day, we see the line shift the other way because everyone just kind of runs to it at one time. So the risk obviously has moved. But no, looking at the odds right now, kind of flipping up the hood here, it looks like we do have more tickets on the Blues to win, but about 90% of the money is actually on the Golden Knights to win. That also includes parlays, so we could be seeing a lot of Golden Knights Canucks parlays in there as well. So But I just looking at the number, especially considering if it was plus 128, that's crazy that it's all the way up to 141. I love the Canucks in this spot. Again, I kind of was not a believer of this Canucks team at the start of the year, but I'm all in. They've given us no reason to not think that this team isn't the real deal. I really, really think that this is a good spot for them to continue that. I also really like a JT Miller assist. It's at plus money. Let me see here. Is it still at plus money? Down to 106, but I mean, basically even money at that point. I like him to get an assist in this spot as well. And if we're looking at any props in that other game, and I think Spency 5 Sensi has already said it in the chat, it was going to be my favorite player prop. It's in that game, and I know we're on the Blues on the money line, but Eichel, man, shots on goal prop has been cashing like absolute craziness. I think 7 of last 9 it's hit the number, so that's a no-brainer for me. 15 shots on goal in his last 2, Spency 5 cents he says as well. So I think he had 8 in his last game, or maybe 2 nights ago. He's firing the puck. So again, I don't really like to take a player prop in games where I'm on the other side of the money line, but with those trends being thrown out, and just even that being initially my favorite prop, I think I have no choice but to play that one as well.
VR Montenegro says, yeah, it was plus 128 this morning when we got on it on the Nielsen show. So it's moved significantly in that Blues game. Bunch of people in the nasty chat on the Blues as well. And we'll get to a few more of those comments as we work our way through this bad boy. Yeah, go ahead.
Before, while we're still on this, is there any interest in a lock shop parlay where we just take the Blues and the Canucks both on the money line plus 329 right now, and that's before Ev Dog or any of the polar bears in the back shop get their
Hutch, you said you were on the home teams, right?
Oh, I'm on that.
I play tonight too. That's an automatic for me. So
okay,
let's 100%. Let's
get that one
together. Let's put that together
Perfect.
for sure. Let me give out this keyword for Vegas right now, and then we'll dive into some of the madness and some of the other things going on. All you have to do is the Lock Shop and the Oil Stream both live today from Beaumont Boston Pizza. So if you're down in the Beaumont area, you're working South Edmonton, you want to swing on by and check out Tommy and I. We'll have the Oil Stream at noon here right after the Lock Shop. The keyword today for the EST Flyway to Vegas, that's 2 nonstop flights from FlyYG down to Vegas, 3 nights accommodations, tickets to a Cirque show. And when you win the trip, if you win the trip, you'll have a year. You can book it any time over the year. You just have to book within the 2 months. So you got 2 months to plan it, and then you can book it any time in the next 365 days. Today's keyword here on the Lock Shop, text it in 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Today's keyword is favorite, as in the Vancouver Canucks tonight are the home favorite. So text in favorite, FAVOURITE. Text favorite right now to 780-218-9999, and you will go into the draw here for the qualifier, which we'll call in about 15 minutes. And the boys take off here at the tail end of the Lock Shop today. Let's go madness, boys. We got to dive into March Madness. How are the brackets looking? How many? I've got 13 of the Sweet 16 in our work bracket. I haven't checked my online ones yet, but I was tabulating the work brackets today. 13 of 16, and all of my final 4 are still available, and I think 7 of my Elite 8 are still kicking around as well. So I like where that bracket's out right now. Patty, how your brackets looking?
The final 4 fully intact right now, which is nice.
Excellent.
I think of the Elite 8, I think I have 5 or 6. So it all depends. I'm usually one bracket guy because there's nothing worse in this world than in my other bracket guy.
Yeah,
but I was
agree with you more.
But I had to get some variance just because in our Coolbet pool, Jake and I are aligned on a lot of things. So I'm I got to switch things up here. So I switched things up. And then there's one where it's for a pretty decent. I think it's like only $100 buy-in, but it's a pretty big pool, and I think it's like the top 10 end up taking home some coin. And I really like UConn. So like I think UConn by far is the best team in this tournament. So if UConn's going to win, I think a lot of people have UConn to win. So I had to get a little bit creative. And unfortunately, I picked the wrong Cinderella. I took Drake in my Elite Eight. So that stung. But I still have UConn. I still have my Final Four. My Elite Eight is in okay shape. There was some blood early on, but it's kind of, water has found its level. I think this year, though, with March Madness, we have had just enough upsets where we still haven't lost a lot of these really, really good teams. Like I think the Elite Eight is going to shape up really nicely because, yes, these underdog stories, these Cinderella runs are so much fun. But when we get to like the Final Four and the Elite Eight, sometimes we see some blowout games because the clock strikes midnight and these teams figure out ways how to beat these Cinderella teams. And, we had a couple of them yesterday over the weekend, but I think we're shaping up for a really nice Sweet 16 and Elite Eight next weekend.
I'll tell you what, I had a scare last night. Did you guys watch the Houston game?
Oh, I watched
yes.
the Houston game. Yeah.
I had a money line parlay riding on that one, and I thought I was great on it because
if people missed it,
crazy.
They were up 10 with 1:17 left and somehow managed to be outscored 13-3, including a buzzer-beating miracle three from the guy on A&M.
Great pass, man.
And the crazy thing was they went into overtime. Two of their top guys had fouled out, and another one did early on. But anyways, Houston got through. They were my pick to win. I'll be honest. I don't feel very confident about that after watching what happened last night, but we'll see. I think I didn't take Duke. I think I've probably got like 10 teams in the final 16, and my Final Four is busted because I had Kansas.
That's right.
Kansas. They got killed. They got killed by Gonzaga. But
that was my best pick of the weekend. Gonzaga money line,
Arizona, Houston there. So March Madness has never been my specialty or forte, but I think I'll bet it more this weekend coming up, having seen a couple games from these teams and have a little bit more. I'm just looking. I mean, we still have this big ESPN bracket with WST. I guess overall I'm 60%, 420 points. So, I mean, I'll take that. But I don't think I'm going to be, I won't be bragging about my bracket at any point this season. There will be no press releases or press conferences about check out my picks at any point coming soon.
I was on the verge of bringing up my other brackets until you guys talked about other bracket guys. I was like, I think all three of them are close to the same anyway. So no, I do think, I know I've got Creighton going to the Final Four in all of them. I've got,
me too.
Who else? I'm on Iowa State in a couple to try to sort of mix it up a little bit as well. So, yeah, but have you guys looked ahead to some of the odds for this next round?
Well, hey, while you bring those up, just a quick stat for the second round. Favorites were 15-1 straight up, and 11-5 against the number. So,
yeah, it's crazy.
Those massive upsets that everyone likes to pick did not help you in really either of the two rounds, but especially in the second round. And the funny thing is that NC State, who's an 11 seed that's made it through, they were still a -270 money line favorite against Oakland
because they were playing Oakland,
who beat Kentucky in the first round. That probably was the craziest upset that we had of them all. But it was very, very good for favorite bettors, and I imagine. Normally, you would think that would kill the books, but I think in March Madness, people love the upsets and love the underdogs so much that might not have been the case. I saw Jeff Benson, who runs the Circa book down in Vegas, saying he was dreading coming into work the next day because of all the favorites that were winning over and over again. But anyways, they still there. I'm sure Vegas is still rocking this weekend. Everyone will be there again. People will be going on. But yeah, Patty, I don't even know if you've got a take on that. But I mean, from a book's perspective, is that normally when all the favorites come through, that's like one of those ones where I'm sure the bookies sort of like hang their heads because the public usually is going for the favorites. But I don't know. I just had to have this feeling, and this is just a general theory, that in March Madness, people genuinely love to pick upsets, I think, more than in just about any other sporting event. And that might kind of spread it out a little bit more than a normal event or tournament.
Well, the casual better, or the bettors that aren't really, so to say, sharp. The sharp bettors are the ones that are usually taking the favorites because it's, Johnny, who's not really a, college basketball bettor, but he loves the NBA and NHL, is deciding to dive into March Madness, and they, want to get a little value on a crazy money line parlay, or they want to get,
Yeah. Sounds
involved
familiar.
that way. Sounds very familiar. Yeah. I'm the problem. It's me. But then there's other, on the other side, it pushes the number, it changes the value, and the sharper bettors, the guys that are betting more, usually do hit the favorites. I do know across a lot of different books, it definitely day one, a lot favorable of a day, but then again, you get some big ones where some of those underdog parlays hit. So it kind of comes out in the wash. But yeah, yesterday definitely, or the weekend, I should say, was a little bit, a little bit of a stomach churner for the book indeed, but it wasn't as bad as I expected. And I think you're right. Just because of all the upsets that we saw on Thursday and Friday, I think a lot of people thought those trends would continue, and it kind of leveled things out.
I'm just looking ahead here at some of the odds that are late already. I like Duke as a 4.5 point underdog against Houston. This is what happens. I watch I watch like 3 Duke games during the regular season, and I read a bunch of previews where people are picking Vermont, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then I see Duke so far in the tournament. I'm like, actually, they look pretty good. So I think I like Duke plus 4.5 in against Houston. That one will be, of course, on the Friday. I'm on Creighton to go quite a ways. They're at plus 2.5, so I got to get on them as dogs. I'm going to dive into this Gonzaga-Purdue game a little bit because Gonzaga, off the top of my head, I'm like, you know what? I don't mind Gonzaga at plus 4.5 just to keep it close against Purdue. But then I was looking, they played twice over the last couple of years, and Purdue kind of won more comfortable than the 4.5 both times. But I was initially thinking Gonzaga, Duke, and Creighton, the plus 4.5, plus 4.5, and plus 2.5, which would be plus 611 on those final 3 games of the week.
You mentioned the Purdue Gonzaga game. I like the over in that, over 153.5. I think it's right now. I definitely first glance and totally agree. Again, Purdue also perennial chokers. Is this when they choke, or maybe this is the team that actually can get it done and kind of?
They're a one-man show. Table. That Canadian dude.
Yeah,
Edie, he had 30 points and 20 rebounds in the first game.
He's a monster, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. So
is he in the draft this year?
Yeah, he was going to be in the draft last year, but decided to stay and try to get something done with Purdue. So, yeah, he's he's, to me, he's like a big man in today's NBA.
Yeah, I don't
have a little bit of a different skill set. I feel like 20 years ago he would have been a super high pick. I don't know where he's mocked to go right now, but I just don't know if his game fits the modern NBA game.
I don't know. I think he'll probably end up being a very good Raptors 905 player for a very long time. No offense, but I mean, you're right. We don't see those guys really in the NBA anymore. Sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question on this from Steinbach the Nemesis in the chat. Creighton is an underdog to Tennessee. Does that sound right? Creighton's the 3 seed, Tennessee's the 2 seed. And Tennessee is a 2.5 point favorite in this game. So that is what the line is right now. I don't know if you guys have a take on whether that makes sense or not, but often when you get these 2-3 matchups in the Sweet 16, there'll be short numbers. And if anything, I would suggest pick the team you think that's going to win and jump on the money line because, those, like, having a team in a close game cover 2.5 can be very, very sketchy. And, I mean, it could be away, but I mean, any thoughts on those ones, guys?
It's funny that's brought up because that's kind of what I thought too. I thought it should have been flipped around, just the way that we have seen Creighton play and the way that the SEC has just been absolutely terrible this entire tournament. Them and Alabama are the only ones still kicking, and I think I'm fading both of them. But my favorite play here, it's down on my notes, and Dusty, you mentioned it. Creighton on the money line plus 130. I probably still take the 2.5 as well, and just make both bets there. But it's also a matchup nightmare. It's not just I think that Creighton is the better team. I have them in my Final Four. I think this is a team that is built for March Madness. They are a 3-point shooting juggernaut. Even their center, I think he's got a 7, I think it's like 60-70% 3-point shooting as well. Like, this team shoots the ball a lot from 3, which can hurt you because if the ball's not sinking, that can spiral quickly. But they do nail a lot of threes, and Tennessee gives up a ton of threes. They can't really defend the 3. I think it's kind of a matchup nightmare for Tennessee. Tennessee's just gotten by. They had a couple scares early on. So for me, Creighton money line is my favorite. I know Jake's in the chat. He says that's one of his favorites as well. So he's taking Clemson plus 7 as well. Clemson, I don't know. I think it's like my pre-notions coming to this tournament. I really don't like Clemson, and I really like Arizona, but 7.5 seems too much. So I kind of like where his head's at the plus 7.5.
Rod Z's all over Arizona. Just as he says, Arizona will roll Clemson. That was the best 2 games defensively we've seen all year from Clemson. They will need to be great defensively if they want to hang with AZ.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that sorry, Jake, I'm taking Rod Z's advice over because my initial thing was Arizona. I like maybe I think what I might do for my ride with Patty Parlay is maybe just take a couple of money line favorites and get that number juiced up a little bit, because 7, I just don't love it. Although I kind of agree with them. I could see Arizona running them out of the gym, and the other one as well, North Carolina minus 3.5. Alabama just looked awful. They were, a lot of talk that, they're this high scoring team. They can't defend. Well, the other night they weren't scoring and they still really couldn't defend either. It was just an ugly, sloppy game. They got by, and I don't know. I don't believe in Bama. I don't believe in the SEC. They're a football conference and they're not a basketball conference. And, UNC, they're a number 1 seed. They're a good team for a reason. I'll take the minus 3.5. Don't love the hook, but I think that's going to be one of my plays as well.
Just to add to Creighton, I was sweating them out. We were at a watch party at Hudson's on Saturday night, and Hudson's is it turns into like kind of clubbish around 11 o'clock. So right when Tom Gazzola fires up the post. Yeah. The ladies know where Tommy G's at. So I'm sitting there, and we finished post game because it was an early game, and we're still sticking around. And I'm standing by where the dance floor is. There's a bunch of tables there. I'm watching the end of the fourth quarter. And then they come and take all the tables away and kind of get it going for the dance floor. And it's kind of quiet. So I'm starting to watch overtime. And then it went to double overtime. By the time we got to double overtime, I'm still standing on the dance floor staring. But there's all these girls out there dancing, like these 21 and 22-year-old girls. And Wannick's got a picture of me staring at the dance floor like I'm some huge creeper. But I'm trying to watch the Creighton game because it's on a giant screen. And I was freaking out, and I was sweating it because I need them in so many places. So, but just to add to that on Creighton, they have another thing that I love: a senior point guard.
Yes,
Stephen Ashworth. He's probably my favorite player in the tournament. 6'1", 170 pounds, and but he just runs the he's a point guard. You just don't see many natural point guards anymore.
Yep.
And this dude's a point guard, hit a couple of big shots along the way as well. So I am fully on the Stephen Ashworth train at Creighton right now.
Yeah, Ashworth is great. And I think I don't have the numbers in front based off average age per team, but they are the most veteran team remaining in March Madness based off experience in the tournament, but then also just age of average players. So just keep throwing the trends, the facts. I'm all in on the Blue Jays, man. I really like them, and they're just they're well coached too. I mean, McDermott's been coaching that team for a long time as well. So give me the Blue Jays, and I know they're not up right now, but we'll have a bunch of other exclusives for March Madness coming up as the week kind of progresses here.
We know full well that Iwanika's just sent me the photo of you.
But you see, like, there's a huge
checking out the girls on the dance floor, guys. That is not what he's doing.
I'm watching the game on that screen,
he's
man.
diving full in.
It's so good.
Full into March Madness. Hey, just to wrap up, a couple things that we didn't touch on. Canada got the dub that they needed to on Saturday afternoon. So Iwanika can go and see Canada play Messi in the I was keep on wanting to say Gold Cup. It's the Copa America, which is like basically like our version
of the
Euro.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, that's going to be awesome. That'll give us lots to talk about during the summer with no hockey before football gets going too. And yes, I just need to reiterate the brilliance of Rachel Holman's rink this season. Guys, going into the Worlds, they were 48-5. They went 11-0 before losing to the Korean team. Love the Korean team in this women's Worlds, but they ended up getting bronze. And then ended up winning again against the Koreans and then against the Swiss, who had won the last 4 straight world championships. I mean, tip your cap to that. That is just simply incredible. But I believe they end up 61-6 on the year. And the Swiss team, the Swiss don't miss. I mean, they were so good through the first kind of 6 ends. But I don't know, that Holman's rink will go up all-time greats, all-time great season. And if you were able to, like me, jump on after the preliminary round, Holman was plus 110, knowing that if they'd won, they would have had last rock in both. It wasn't easy. I mean, like, the quality of women's curling now worldwide is incredible. It's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. But both days we had these, got out with the fellas to watch the game, like noon starts, all pissed off about the Jet game. Then we got a chance just to dive into the curling. And I will tell you, if you had a camera, I should have maybe done a video or something of the bar. Everyone was so locked into this curling. Maybe that can only happen in Winnipeg. I don't know. But all afternoon, people like yelling, cheering at the crowd. They had the sound on for part of it. It was as a scene you do not see very often. But anyways, tip of the cap to Holman and her rink. Unbelievable run. And thank you personally for bailing me out from some other. By the way, what was Peter Valinati pre-tournament for the Valspar? Are we back into the 100 zones?
Had to have been
100, 120 maybe.
Yeah, had to have been for sure.
Shout out, you know what? Still Damon smiling. You know what? If you had Cam Young, I saw Feinberg had Cam Young. He's like, my guy is going to lose to a dude wearing a bucket hat. It's outrageous.
All right, Huss, I know you got to go calm some fires over on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to our keyword here, boys. Pat, thanks for sliding in today. Back to talk some golf on Wednesday or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Scotty Scheffler plus 275.
Wait, was there like 10 people in this tournament? Like, what's going on?
Well, there's only one that matters right now. And poor old Wyndham Clark. Can we bet Wyndham to be second? Like, just like there's you know what? We want to do it because keep in mind that happened the last tournament. Scotty first, Wyndham. Get a prop on that for Wednesday.
Yes. That's so cruel. That's so cruel, but it's gonna happen.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later, man. Great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. By the way, partner parlay's up. Blues Canucks plus 375. Jump on it.
Perfect. You can find that there over on Coolbet.com. If you're not yet signed up for an account, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do. Tom Gazzola is supposed to be joining me here at noon. He's not here yet, but we still got a little bit of time. But who do we got back there? Matt, Zach, who do we got?
Yeah, I'm back here. Zach, what's up?
All right. Who's the key? Who's our qualifier today?
Yeah, we got Trevor on the line here as a qualifier.
All right. It's not YouTube, Trev, is it?
No, not YouTube, Trev. He might have tried to sneak his way in, but
okay, yeah, Trevor. I can see it. All right, let's go to Trevor. Trevor, congratulations, man. You're our first, second, third qualifier of the day here for the EST Flyway to Vegas. Congratulations.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Have you been to Vegas before?
I've never been to Vegas.
You've never been to Vegas. Okay, so if you win this 2 nights or 2 nonstop flights, 3 nights accommodations, tickets to a Cirque show, who would you bring with you?
Oh, I definitely bring my wife.
Has she been to Vegas before?
I think she has been once. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, she's the vet. Good luck, man. You're one step closer.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to Trevor. He's never been to Vegas, but his wife has. So maybe they end up going together. We got some listeners rolling in here for lunch today at Boston Pizza. I'm hoping that Tommy Gazzola decides to join at some point as well. Be very Tommy Gazzola-ish to be late to on location at Boston Pizza. But we got these square footers lined up. We're going to dive into the loaded pepperoni and bacon square footer. Wait till you see this thing. Going to be absolutely unreal. That's going to do it for the Lock Shop today. Oil Stream coming up right away here as well from the Beaumont Boston Pizza. If you're down in the area, swing on by Tommy here. I will be here. I'm sure the chat on Oil Stream today is going to be quite something. That's on the way. Thank you for joining us on the Lock Shop today. Best of luck on that late night in the NHL tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow.